Here comes Murray. Jokic. He is pure basketball poetry.
Welcome to a Valley Sports Plug Phoenix Suns playoff recap for round 2, game 2. I'm Chris Patrick, and with me is my man Michael Benjamin, here to break it all down for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at how game 2 went down for the Phoenix Suns in Denver against the Nuggets. A bit of a slower start for both teams in this one, and the Suns held a lead at the end of the first quarter, 21-18. In the second, both teams continued to struggle getting shots to fall, and the score was close. The Suns held the lead 42-40 at the break. In the third quarter, the battle continued, the Suns scoring 31 to the Nuggets 30, and the score was 73-70 going into the fourth. Unfortunately, the Suns weren't able to seal the deal, being outscored by 13 points in the fourth quarter, and would drop game 2 in Denver. The final score 97-87, and the Nuggets take a 2-0 lead in the series. But now I'll pass it over to Michael Benjamin for an in-depth look at game 2.
As we start game 2, both the Suns and the Nuggets go the big man route, getting Jokic started early, as well as DeAndre Ayton. And the Suns had better defensive pressure, but still some lapses on some closeouts. But the Nuggets struggled shooting from the start. It seemed like the altitude was pushing some shots off to the side for the Suns, but they close out the first with a 3-point lead. And in quarter 2, we started with too much dribbling, and we're losing out on 50-50 possessions. We don't score in the first 5 minutes to start. 1 of 12 to start from 3 as a whole for the game. But Devin Booker adjusted to driving too deep and started to find his range, and the Suns head into the locker room up by 2 at half. And in quarter 3, we started going pound for pound, then find a spurt to get some good stops, and the midi game starts getting us going, and we find ourselves up by 8. But then with about 5 minutes left, Chris Paul is injured with a groin, and he is gone for the game. But Devin Booker said, "Don't worry, I'm going to handle this on my own." But Nikola Jokic, he had his way with busy down the stretch. He scored the last 9 points for the Nuggets in the third. But the Suns held a 3-point lead heading into the final quarter. And to start the fourth, we seemed lost on the offensive end, begin 0 for 9 from the field, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hits 3 big threes in the fourth quarter. And the Suns were just gassed to finish this one. And the Nuggets ran the Suns back to Phoenix with a 97-87 win to take game 2 and a commanding 2-0 lead in this semifinal round. So, Chris, we know what time it is. It's our time for the 3 keys of the game. So I got to pass it over to you for number 1.
And it's hard to not be all doom and gloom for these keys, but we got to be brutally honest. The first key in this one were the Suns not capitalizing. Let's be honest, it was a poor performance by the Nuggets that were not named Nikola Jokic tonight. Murray, after an explosive game 1, was not hitting his shots. He had less than 20 to finish the game. Nuggets role players weren't hitting as many shots, despite still being left open on the perimeter more often than not. I guess Kevin Durant is allergic to getting a hand up and closing out on shooters. I don't know what it is. If he just trusts that they're not going to make those shots or doesn't care if they are. But the blame doesn't solely fall on Kevin Durant, of course. All around by the Suns team, we did not capitalize tonight on a poor Nuggets performance. Simple as that.
This was the one to have, right? And we needed a split, man. We just really needed a split if we wanted to push this one into our favor going back to Phoenix. And like you said, I mean, Jokic goes insane. 39 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists. He didn't have to distribute as much tonight because he was having his way inside on DeAndre Ayton, on Bismack Biyombo, and on anybody who would get a mismatch on him. And the Nuggets struggled mightily. But Gordon and KCP, within their limited touches, they did make the most out of them. And let's just be honest with ourselves here, folks. KD, it was disastrous. 10 of 27 from the field, 2 of 12 from 3. I mean, the Suns as a whole struggled, 6 of 31. But when Jamal Murray only scores 10 points and shoots 3 of 15, that's one that you need to take. And Michael Porter Jr. has just been absolutely a ghost. He has not been a part of this series at all to start. And when you find yourselves taking almost 20 more shots than a team, you figure you're going to win that one. That was what happened in game one for the Nuggets. But you only get 5 free throws, and we're going to get into why that was happening as well. But with that being said, Chris, I'm going to pass it over to you for key number 2.
Key number 2 has to be the Chris Paul injury. Like you said, with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, he goes down on a weird play where he's trying to box out and get a rebound and instantly came down grabbing at his groin area, and he would be out for the remainder of the game. It's always hard with these non-contact injuries. I know there was a little bit of contact there, but I'll still label it a non-contact injury because it looked like just a basketball play. And I get that Chris Paul is a little bit up there in age, but all that aside, his impact cannot be understated. The way that he controls the flow of the offense and controls the pace of the play, it's a game changer. And we saw that when throughout the first 3 quarters of this game, the Suns, although not killing it, I would say we're in control and trending towards a victory. And then to give up 13 points in the fourth, have a stale offense where guys are just waiting on the perimeter for a one-on-one opportunity, it really just killed us in the end.
As much as we love him and as much credit is owed to Chris Paul, this is the 3rd straight playoff run where he has found himself injured, and it has changed the momentum for the Phoenix Suns. And yes, this is just one game, but you saw what happened in that fourth quarter. And after he went down, we completely lose the pick and roll game with DeAndre Ayton, who did have a nice stat game. If you look at it, 14 points, 7 of 10 shooting from the field. He struggled in other departments like we have seen consistently. But when you get away from anybody else being able to contribute and you're literally just focused on Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, if they're not hitting on all cylinders, you see what happens. And it happened tonight, unfortunately. We cross our fingers. Since this next game, game 3 is going to be on Friday. So you're hoping that maybe he can heal up and be ready to go by then. But groin injuries are tough, man. I mean, we even saw it with Devin Booker partially through this season. He missed a game and then he came back within that Denver game and was down for a month. So I would not be surprised if we don't see Chris Paul in game 3 or in game 4. And that is a tough pill to swallow, because a lot of the situations that we saw in the fourth quarter were predicated on him going down. And I know that you bring in Kevin Durant to mitigate some of those situations, but I think it's understated what Chris Paul can do for this offense. And it rolls right into key number 3 and our final key of the game. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Chris, to finish us off.
And you nailed it, Mike. All 3 of our keys tonight really just tie in together so nicely. And for our third key, it has to be the stagnant offense of the Phoenix Suns. We already touched on some of these points. We saw a lot of one-on-one basketball. Our role players were hesitant to take shots. They couldn't make the shots when they did take them. Josh Okogie was missing open jumpers. It was Brick City out there, man. I mean, Campaign finally taking Landry Shamet's minutes, and he isn't 100%. He's scared to finish at the rim. There was one specific play where he had the defender on his hip. Any other time, I imagine he would have gone up with the right hand, probably made it, might have gotten a foul, but would have attempted it, but instead instantly turned his head and was looking for the pass. Luckily, it got tipped out of bounds and we kept that possession, but I don't even think we scored on that possession. And that's just the overall theme of the fourth quarter and really the entire game, even in lieu of not having Chris Paul, is just the stale, stagnant offense, settling for jump shots and tough jump shots at that. And you mentioned 5 of 5 at the line. Sure, we shot 100% from the free throw line, but the Denver Nuggets took 21 free throws. They were attacking the basket, being aggressive, and the Suns were just settling. And again, I'll just say it again, stale, stagnant offense out there tonight.
And we saw it in the fourth quarter. I mean, 14 total points in the fourth quarter, Chris. Nobody's going to win in the NBA, even in a low-scoring game like we saw today. If you start 0 for 9 in the fourth quarter and have zero momentum, have zero movement on the offensive end, it's all downhill from there. And the Nuggets just rolled. after we couldn't figure out how to get the ball moving. I know they were trying to set those high screens with the fake roll through with Damian Lee and then a final screen by DeAndre Ayton, but it just wasn't enough because after that screen, Devin Booker was still so high on those attacks, and you're just getting into really, really tough jumpers. And I know Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are part of the mid-range assassins, as we've labeled them. But when you consistently have to shoot that many tough jumpers and work so hard on the defensive end as well, when it comes down to the fourth quarter, you're going to be gassed. And we saw it once again tonight, which is an unfortunate situation. But we're heading back home. We're going to get some extra days of rest because this series started before the Lakers and the Warriors. So we'll see, man. We're going to need all the energy we can get from Suns fans in the Footprint Center on Friday. I'll pass it over to you, Chris, for your final thoughts from this Game 2 loss.
I want to remain optimistic. I want to say that it's not over yet. Of course, winning one on the road would have been nice to come back to Phoenix with at least a split series. But as long as we handle business and win 2 at home, we're still alive and we can make it a 3-game series. This team just needs to get their act together. I know you said we got 3 days off before the game on Friday, so I hope they take that time to really hone in a game plan, maybe shore up the rotations a bit. Monty played 11 different players tonight, and in the playoffs, that's just a head scratcher, man. You should have your roster figured out by this time, and I know there's excuses to be made. Of course, the trade deadline, of course, Kevin Durant not playing and him maybe still finding his place out there, but when you're going up against the 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic, it's going to be an uphill battle, and you're going to have to figure it out quickly. Like our friend Delmo said on Twitter tonight, I think he posted, there are 3 things promised in life: death, taxes, and Chris Paul getting injured in the playoffs. I hope he comes back. I really hope he does. But also, I hope that that wasn't the nail in the coffin for this team. So like I said, going to try and remain optimistic. We get 2 at home. This is still a series. But this Game 3, in my mind, is a must-win.
The age-old saying, a series doesn't really start until somebody wins on the road. But it is really tough when you are the team that does not have home court advantage and you have the opportunity to steal one within those first 2 games. And the Suns fall flat, but we still have plenty of opportunities to figure this thing out. But one thing is a glaring weakness as well within this entire series, Chris. The Phoenix Suns bench as a whole has been outscored 223 to 100 in these 2023 NBA playoffs. And if that isn't the scariest of stats, I don't know what is. Because if this team is going to win this series, they're going to have to expend so much energy on the defensive end. And if you're going to only try and rely on Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, this is going to be a very short series. But let's go home. Let's get some rest. And let's rally back for Game 3, baby. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. You said it best, Mike. The Suns will lick their wounds before Game 3 this Friday here at home. Of course, we'll be sure to bring you a recap of that one the day after. So make sure you tune in, like, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the Valley sports action. For Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you then. Peace.